was interesting. Hey everyone, welcome back to Great Northwest Weaponry. This is Thomas, and today we are taking a look at the Pistolet Automatique Modele 1935S. As you probably noticed, this one has a very weak recoil spring, so I'm probably going to be replacing that soon. But this gun is an interesting one. So in 1935, from 1935 to 1937, the French were running trials to replace the guns they'd been using previously, and the 1935S was one of the guns that participated in those trials. It did lose to the 1935A. The 1935S was produced by Saint Etienne, or MAS. We'll get back to who produced the 1935A because I'm forgetting at the moment. I think it was Châtellerault. If I'm incorrect, I'll post right here who it actually was. But about 82,800 of these were produced total. Only about 1,400 were produced before the German invasion in World War I. That is an interesting note on this gun. Not a single one of these was produced by any company during the German occupation of France. They were, I think, the only pistol that France was fielding at the time that was not ever produced for the Germans. Reasoning for that is when the Germans were making their way through France, the MAS or MAS employees hid the plans for the gun and the tooling, so they never fell into German hands. As such, they were not produced during the German occupation in any way, shape, or form. They were produced by a number of companies, and we'll look at who all produced them. But yeah, it's a fascinating pistol. It's a weird pistol, and there is a critical flaw that I've noticed. Take a peek here. You see where the safety is here? When you grab and rack the gun, it's really easy to accidentally engage the safety. So you have to be mindful of that and grab a fairly narrow spot to not hit the safety. So that is something to be aware of when shooting this gun. And there's some differences with the safety too. The original design, the safety is actually the reverse of this. We'll go into why that changed when we get over to the table. But yeah, this one is produced by SAGEM, or S-A-G-E-M. Their full name is incredibly long and incredibly French. I cannot pronounce it, so I'm going to post it over here because I don't want to just absolutely murder French. I'm already bad enough at pronouncing French words, and it's a really bad one. So yeah, really cool piece. Let's go ahead and take this thing to the table and take a closer look. So I'd mentioned that several different companies made the Model 1935S, and this all started in 1944, late 1944 actually, because prior to that, Saint Etienne, or MAS, was the only company making them. You may have noticed I appear to have lost a screw. I don't know when that disappeared. I noticed it was gone for the entire last segment, but I don't know if it's at my house, it won't be a problem, but otherwise I'm going to have to try and find a new one, so that'll be fun. But anyway, so MAS, or Saint Etienne, produced these before the German occupation, and then after the Germans were kicked out, they continued producing them until late 1944. Then they handed it off to other companies. These other companies being, and I'm going to use the shorthand names again because, again, very French words, very incapable of speaking French. So, SAGEM, MAC, or MAC, let's see, there was MF, and then, of course, MAS. So the actual production numbers, MF made about 10,000, SAGEM made about 10,000, MAS made approximately 6,700, and MAC, or MAC, made about 56,000. So the bulk of the guns that were produced by MAC. MAC and SAGEM, and I'd already mentioned this too, the alteration of the safety, that was done by just MAC and SAGEM, and this was an alteration that was added in just to make the gun more closely resemble the 1935A. So the 1935A safety works like that. The original 1935S, the safety was the opposite. So this would be fire, this would be safe. And that alteration was done starting in 1946, and those pistols would have been marked M1, as you see on this one here. So to the best of my knowledge, this gun is somewhere between 1946 and 1953, but I don't really have a way of knowing for absolute certain. Disassembly of this gun is very easy. So you just lock it back, and then you see this tab goes right here. Just kind of hold the slide from falling forward, poke that out, and it just kind of pops out on its own. It's very easy. Then you can just, oh, you gotta remove the mag. Ride the slide forward, then firing pin, or not firing pin, excuse me, guide rod, barrel. Putting it back together is just the reverse operation. There. You got to make sure that this is in the back position, by the way. So slide it back on, get that lined up. You can kind of see there. Put this back in, slide it the rest of the way, lock it in, and then boom. The hammer only drops when the mag is in the gun. And there we are. It's pretty easy. And also another side note on these, the gun that replaced the 1935A is actually based on the 1935S. So in the end, you could almost say the 1935S won the trials, because the follow-up gun, I believe, I'm going to look at my notes here real quick, MAC or MLE 1950 in 9mm. That is the gun that replaced the 1935A, and again, that is based directly on the design of the 1935S. So it is a good design. It just lost out for a couple of reasons to the 1935A. And if we ever get a 1935A, we'll look a little closer at that. In the meantime, let's try and shoot this thing again. You notice that the slide wasn't fully engaging, and I already briefly mentioned, I believe that is just a matter of the recoil spring being a little too weak, but should still be able to shoot it. So let's go do that. The 1935S is chambered in 7.65 French Longue. You'll see old boxes labeled Longue, spelt L-O-N-G-U-E. That is just the French spelling for the word long. It's basically just a 32 with a bigger bullet, just a longer bullet. It's a strange bullet. Until very recently, they were impossible to obtain, until the wonderful Steinel Ammo started manufacturing ammunition for the gun. I believe it's Starline Brass that actually makes the casings for these. But so you can load your own off of those casings. If I'm incorrect on that being Starline, I'll mention on the side. As usual, you guys are familiar with this. But yeah, thank you Steinel Ammo for manufacturing 7.65 French Longue. It was literally, until sometime last year, next to impossible to obtain. But now we get to shoot these old French beauties. So let's shoot this one a little more. If we can get it to load. It started sticking there again. You guys see this? I've mentioned this twice now. It's just not fully picking it up. It's just the spring is a little too weak. I don't think that is a design flaw. I think that is an age flaw. Because these guns were retired in the 60s, so this gun could have served from date of manufacture. We had a phone go off making Mario noises, so I apologize. Nintendo, please don't sue me. But it's pretty simple to get this but the rest of the way back into battery. I'm just pushing on the slide, so let's continue shooting. All right, last few shots actually went pretty smoothly there. So yeah, I actually owned this gun for quite a while before I ever got ammo for it. I was really happy when I found out that I could. And it is a very cool piece. I wish that it was working a little smoother, but again, if I replace the recoil spring, probably won't be an issue. These guns had a pretty long service life. As I mentioned, they served into the 60s sometime. There's not a definitive, this is the moment they were cycled out. They served until the 60s. They appear in World War II, the First Indochina War, the war between Algeria and France, and Vietnam, in fact. This is definitely what would be considered a Cold War pistol. And it's kind of the considering the last pistol that we demoed was a CZ52, we've now kind of done two Cold War pistols from maybe opposite sides of the wall there, so definitely an interesting piece. Something you can have these pretty cheap. They're not that expensive, but they are a interesting piece of history. and something that I think is worth having in your collection, particularly if you like Cold War guns or more obscure guns, which I love obscure weapons. That's something you may have kind of noticed. There's a lot of things I like. I like 32s, I like revolvers, I like weird guns. This is weird. And as such, I'm quite a fan. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's been Thomas with Great Northwest Weaponry, and we'll see you next time.